Imagine yourself sitting by a river in West Africa, under a centuries-old baobab tree. In front of you, a wooden board carved with 12 small pits, filled with red and black seeds. This is not just a game, it is a time machine. You hold in your hands the whale, a strategy game born over 3,000 years ago, long before the pyramids of Egypt. Pharaohs played it to make important decisions. The kings of Ghana and Mali used it to train their warriors in patience. Today, in 2025, children like you still play it in Dakar, Ouagadougou, or Abidjan. But how can a game of seeds speak to us about the unity of an entire continent? That is where Pan-Africanism begins. Pan-Africanism is the idea that all the peoples of Africa, and those of African descent scattered around the world, form one big family. It is a movement that seeks to unite, heal the wounds of the past, and build a common future. And to understand this movement, we will use our senses, the touch of whale seeds, the smell of spices in a market, the taste of fufo or thiboudienne, the colors of Ghanaian Kent cloth. Each sensation tells a story. This course is an invitation to a sensory journey through time and space. You will learn how the slave trade, described in accounts like 12 Years a Slave or Studies on the Slave Trade in Africa, broke families, but also how resistance was born. You will discover that Pan-Africanism is not just about politicians' conferences, it is also the joy of a child winning a game of whale, the pride of a woman wearing a Bogolan loincloth, the strength of a man singing a blues born from pain. Get ready to feel Africa. Not to look at it from afar. To touch it, to smell it, to live it. Today, we play, we taste, we listen, and we learn to be a citizen of the world. SEP a whale, also called Mankala or Oa, is much more than entertainment. It is a living history book. The word Mankala comes from the Arabic nakala, meaning to move. The seeds you move represent resources, life, sharing. In ancient African societies, playing a whale taught children to count, to anticipate, to negotiate. But above all, it taught community. You cannot win alone, you must feed the opponent's side for the game to continue. This is a lesson in Pan-Africanism in miniature. Now imagine an open-air market in Bamako, Mali. The air is filled with smells: fresh ginger, cayenne pepper, shea butter, incense. The market women, sitting behind mounds of millet and rice, offer you a glass of bissap, a red drink made from hibiscus flowers. The taste is both sweet and tangy. This drink is found from Senegal to Sudan. It unites people through the palate. Pan-Africanism is also this, recognizing that, despite differences in languages, there are more than 2,000 in Africa. Daily gestures are the same.
A Pan-Africanist leader like Kwame Nkrumah wore Kent, he affirmed, "I am proud of my roots." Similarly, Bogolan, this mud-dyed cloth from Mali, tells stories of hunters and griots. By touching these fabrics, we touch the soul of a continent. Games like a whale, flavors like bissap, textiles like Kent are bridges between peoples. They remind us that, long before European colonizers, Africa had its own systems of education, trade, and governance. The empires of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, and Monomotapa were powerful and organized. Trade routes crossed the Sahara, exchanging gold, salt, and spices. The scholars of Timbuktu studied mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. All this was attacked by the slave trade, which tore millions of people from their land. But the games, recipes, and dances survived. They are the silent witnesses of resistance. Today, by playing a whale, you reconnect with this memory. You understand that Pan-Africanism is not a modern invention, it is an ancient memory, a golden thread linking generations. To understand Pan-Africanism, we must dive into one of humanity's greatest wounds, the slave trade. Now imagine yourself on a ship, in the 18th century. The air is unbreathable, the smell of sweat, blood, and disease catches in your throat. You are chained to hundreds of others, packed like cargo. This is what Solomon Northup's account 12 Years a Slave describes, a free man kidnapped and enslaved in the United States. But before arriving in America, there was the capture in Africa. African kingdoms, sometimes allied with European merchants, sold prisoners of war. Other times, violent raids devastated entire villages. Documents on the slave trade in Africa show that the continent lost between 12 and 15 million people, torn from their families, their language, their culture. Chains, whips, slave ships broke lives. But they did not break the spirit. On cotton, tobacco, and sugar cane plantations, deported Africans created new music, new religions, new ways of cooking. Blues, jazz, and gospel were born from this pain. Gumbo, a Creole dish, is a blend of African, European, and Native American flavors. This is already Pan-Africanism in action, a forced but creative fusion. In the 19th century, thinkers like Edward Wilmot Blyden, an educator from the West Indies, began to say, we, black peoples, must unite to be free. Blyden encouraged a return to Africa, particularly to Liberia and Sierra Leone. These ideas grew until the first Pan-African Conference in 1900, organized by Henry Sylvester Williams, a lawyer from Trinidad and Tobago. Writers, poets, activists from across the black diaspora gathered in London to demand an end to racism and colonization. They wanted Africa to be governed by Africans. WEBD.
Colonization of Africa, at the end of the 19th century, complicated everything. Powers like France, Great Britain, Belgium, and Portugal divided the continent like a cake, without regard for ethnicities, languages, or histories. Peoples who had always fought each other found themselves in the same country, and brothers were separated by artificial borders. The smell of colonial gunpowder replaced that of spices. But the games, songs, and tales continued to circulate, in secret, like a promise of revenge. Pan-Africanism is also faces, names, voices. Take Marcus Garvey, born in Jamaica, and he was a passionate orator, a visionary. He founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA. His message was simple: Africa for Africans. He wanted to create an independent country for black people, in Africa. He even created a shipping company, the Black Star Line, to transport goods and passengers between the United States, the Caribbean, and Africa. Imagine the smell of salt and tar on the docks, the noise of engines, the pride of black passengers boarding their own ships. Garvey said, "Never give up your dreams." He wore colorful uniforms, feathered hats, to show dignity. Even though his project failed financially, he inspired generations. Another hero is Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of independent Ghana. In Ghana, formerly the Gold Coast, became the symbol of African liberation. Nkrumah said, "The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked to the total liberation of Africa." He organized the Conference of Independent African States, and he wore Kent. He danced with his people, he smelled the earth of his country. He wanted to create the United States of Africa. But he was overthrown by a coup in 1966, due to the Cold War and foreign interests. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela became the face of the struggle against apartheid, a terrible system of racial segregation. He spent 27 years in prison. When he was released in 1990, he chose forgiveness over revenge. He became president, and the rainbow of the South African nation is also Pan-Africanism. But let's not forget the women. Yaa Asantewaa, Queen Mother of the Ashanti Empire in Ghana, led a war against the British, and she said, "If you men cannot fight, then we women will." She wielded a rifle, she smelled gunpowder. She is a symbol of resistance. Today, artists like Angelique Kidjo, Benin, Youssou N'Dour, Senegal, or Burna Boy, Nigeria carry Pan-Africanism in their music. Their songs blend traditional rhythms, jam, core with hip-hop or reggae. When you listen to Africa by Toto, or Jerusalema by Master KG, you feel pride. Pa.
NS down your chin, sweet, fragrant. Now, imagine drinking Moroccan mint tea, burning hot, sweet, poured from a height to make it frothy. Each sip is a ritual. These flavors travel. On the streets of Paris, New York, or London, you find African restaurants everywhere. Pan-Africanism is also fashion. Designers like Omo Sai, Senegalese Folowio, Nigeria blend traditional fabrics with modern cuts. Wax prints, those brightly colored fabric, have become a symbol of identity. When you wear a loincloth, you wear a story. Games are also modernizing. There are Mankala apps for smartphones. Whale tournaments are organized online, connecting players from Barbados to Botswana. Sports, like football, are great unifiers. The Africa Cup of Nations, AFC OIS, a moment of collective pride. Flags, songs, vuvuzelas, it all smells like celebration. But there are still battles. Africa suffers from wars, poverty, debt. Rich countries still exploit its resources, oil, diamonds, coltan, needed for our phones. Climate change hits hard, droughts, floods. Modern Pan-Africanism must address these challenges. Organizations like the African Union, created in 2002, try to coordinate policies. Young activists like Zimbabwean Veredzo Kativu or Kenyan James Mwangi fight for education and climate justice. Digital Pan-Africanism is booming. Platforms like AfriLabs connect startups. Nkrumah's dream of a united Africa is not dead. It is just taking new forms. And you, in your classroom, can be a little Pan-Africanist. How? By learning history, respecting cultures, fighting racism, playing a whale with your friends. Each seed you move on the board is a step toward reconciliation. Each bite of Thiboudien, Senegalese fish and rices a tribute to ancestors. Each note of African music is a prayer for unity. Pan-Africanism is not a simple concept. There are debates among its supporters. For example, should we prioritize immediate political unity, a single African government, rather gradual economic cooperation? Some say African countries must first develop individually before uniting. Others, like revolutionary Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso, believe that unity must come through social revolution, feeding one's people, educating girls, planting trees. Sankara changed his country's name, from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright people. He smelled the earth, he worked with peasants. He was assassinated. In another debate concerns language. Africa speaks hundreds of languages, but official languages are often those of the colonizers: French, English, Portuguese. Some Pan-Africanists want to promote Swahili as a common language, as it is already spoken in several East African countries. Others say we should value all local languages.
In Pan-Africanism? Yes, many answer. Garvey's Back to Africa movement is an example. But some Africans say, you left centuries ago, you no longer know us. This is a difficult dialogue. Pan-Africanism must also face globalization. Young Africans watch the same Netflix series, eat pizza, listen to American rap. Are they losing their identity? Or are they creating a new hybrid culture? Cameroonian philosopher Akil Mbembe speaks of Afropolitanism, being African and a citizen of the world. Finally, there is the ecological challenge. Africa is the continent that pollutes the least, but suffers the most from global warming. Movements like Fridays for Future also exist in Nairobi or Lagos. Green Pan-Africanism is born. It says, protecting the earth is protecting Africa. To go further, you can read books like The Sons of Independence by Amadou Karuma, or listen to podcasts like Mafron on RFI. You can also cook an African dish, try mafe, peanut steer chakalaka, spicy vegetables from South Africa. Each recipe is a history lesson. Recipe to remember this course, use all your senses. Touch, make a smaller whale board with an egg carton and beans. Play with a classmate. Each time you move a seed, say a key word from the course, e.g., Nkrumah, slave trade, unity. Smell, go to a spice market or an African shop. Breathe in ginger, cloves, cinnamon. Note what each smell evokes for you. Taste, prepare bissap, hibiscus infusion. Drink it while listening to a song by Youssou N'Dour. Associate the flavor with the music. Sight, draw a mind map of Africa. Place the names of heroes, Garvey, Nkrumah, Mandela, Yera Santua next to the countries where they lived. Color each region with a Kent color. Hearing, create a playlist of 5 Pan-Africanist songs, e.g., Zombia by Fela Kuti, Africa by Toto, Jerusalema by Master Kilogram, Pater Pater by Miriam Makeba, Waka Waka by Shakira. Listen to it while doing your homework. Memory, make flashcards. On one side, write a name or concept. on the other, an associated sensation. Example, Mancala, clicking seeds. Kent, silky, colorful fabric. Bissap, red and tangy. Game, organize a quiz with your friends. The winner gets to wear an African accessory, a Kent scarf, a bead necklace. Learning Pan-Africanism is like learning a dance. You have to move, feel, laugh. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Each misplaced a whale seed teaches you strategies. SEP want to continue the adventure? Here are some leads. Books, Ambiguous Adventure by Cheikh Hamidou Kane, a novel about the clash of cultures. God's Bits of Wood by Ousmane Sembène, about the strike of African railway workers. Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, autobiography adapted for young people. Phil.
UT the assassinated Congolese leader. Websites, africanews.com for news. afrolegends.com for tales. Museum of African Design for art. Actions, suggest to your history teacher to organize an African day in your class. Bring a dish, a game, a fabric. Invite a parent or neighbor from Africa to speak. You can also support associations like Play International, which uses sport and play for education in Africa. Open questions for reflection. How can Pan-Africanism help fight racism in your country? Do you think African countries should speak a single language? If so, which one? Why are games important for transmitting a culture? What do you feel when you hear the word Africa? Why? Pan-Africanism is a lifelong journey. Every day, you can discover a new flavor, a new rhythm, a new story. Africa is not a country, it is a world. And this world awaits you.